Hello everybody, it's a late night video. I just can't sleep and I've been wanting to do this for a long time. This is going to be labeled or titled Nicotine / Tobacco Rant because I have got a bone to pick with these products. Now, first to start off, I do not encourage any use of tobacco, cannabis, or any product like vaping, any other e-cigarette, cigarettes themselves, cigars, chewing tobacco, and any other alternative used by tobacco. Now, before we start, I'm going to say the opinion that most people won't agree, these anti-smokers. I think smoking isn't as bad as stuff like getting into meth or heroin, because I'm not saying smoking is not going to kill you, because most of the time it will, but with heroin, I think it's a lot more warping. It's a lot more mind warping. So it's not really a healthy habit to get into, and by no means. Most people die of cigarettes, which is scary, because, it's kind of like, it's strange. We went from back in the 30s. I swear that there was actually an ad in the 30s that said smoking can decrease your coughing, and there was an ad in the 50s about this guy like smoking cigarettes and increasing his lungs, which is kind of ironic when you look at this. And we have the infamous stuff like Joe Camel. If you're wondering where I got this, my grandma gave it to me. It's like something she got back in the 90s, so I just keep it around. And there's also the cool penguins. But this is not going to be a positive look on nicotine, because a lot of my family members smoke cigarettes. I'm not going to go into which ones do, but most of my family members smoke cigarettes. Well, not most of them. I'm not going to name which family members do, but my family members, some of them do smoke cigarettes. And if you didn't know, that contains nicotine and tobacco, but basically the part of this. Now, first of all, I'm going to say, if you're going to smoke e-cigarettes but not smoke smoke a cigarette, you're a chicken. Plain and simple. You know that e-cigarettes can harm you. They may be a little bit better than cigarettes, but they're doing the same effect. It's heating nicotine and those chemicals up. It's doing the same thing as a cigarette would do. Maybe not, like the real paper, but it's not paper, but it's still doing the same effect that a cigarette does to yourself. So it's really just, if you're going to do tobacco or nicotine, well, I don't know. E-cigarettes don't have tobacco in them, they just got nicotine in them. And I'll be honest with you, people at my school and some kind of distant friends smoke. Or vape, I meant. I'm so used to saying the word smoke. And it's kind of like, yeah, you're gonna vape, huh? And I'm not gonna say vaping is not as bad as cigarettes. I'm not gonna say vaping is worse than cigarettes or better, because you know what? I'm not gonna just, even though I'm saying that the vaping is probably better than smoking, that's not saying it's a healthy thing to get into either. That opens a whole new can of worms when you're talking about the problems of vaping, because with vaping, I think there's even some marijuana in them. Somebody told me. That may not be true, but still, even if that is, it's kind of crazy. But, so, yeah. So, if you want me to make a video about the whole, advertising of tobacco mascots, go back to the 30s and talk about those little comic strips created by Marlboro and, I think, Winston? And, those infamous Flintstone commercials. And the ban of all, advertising of cartoon characters on cigarette and stuff like that, which will be a night in tobacco uses. So let's go into a little bit of brief history. Tobacco is a plant grown in the Central America and South America, around the Caribbeans and Mexico. And if you didn't know, tobacco was originally created by used by the Native Americans, and they created some type of cigarette type thing. But yeah, around the 14th century, cigars started to be producing over in other countries by tobacco. If you didn't know, a cigar is a more larger cigarette. You don't just a cigarette you sit there and smoke more than one. A cigar is usually just one and go. It's not healthy either though. But it's not healthy. No tobacco product is healthy. But before I continue on with this, this is not a rant towards smokers themselves, because I'm not gonna hate on a smoker. It's their decision. You know, dude, it's like, what is my right to hate on somebody for making a decision for themselves? It's not like it's not like they, if it'd be different if, you think of of a situation of like, but it's not my right. If it's just not I don't have the right to criticize somebody because they're their decision. Now, if it's stuff like on the internet, being stupid on the internet, but personal life choices like what you ingest in your body, your brands you go take, it's kind of it's none of my business. So I'm never gonna down the person who smokes because it's their decision, and I don't condemn them, or I don't condone them. I don't even I will never support tobacco. It's never gonna be anything I even talk about past this video. I might talk about part 2, like I said, but should I get back to what's most important? The effects of smoking and how it was first figured out, and a little bit of the history of cigarettes. Cigarettes were created around the 9th century by the Native Americans, but the first time they were really published in America, which is probably the biggest, or as you know, Sir Walter Raleigh actually brought a bunch of tobacco over to Europe in the 1600s, which is why in the song "I'm So Tired," Drumlin says, "I'm so tired, although I'll have another cigarette," and curse the Walter Raleigh, he was such a stupid get. Yes, because he's mad, because, cigarettes are... nicotine is a highly addictive and a stimulant to the bloodstream. It increases blood pressure, and it causes the heart to slow down a little bit. So that's one of the bigger parts of cigarettes. Should I mention the other stuff? But let's get on to the next part of this whole video. When did we ever find out? When did the human race find out that cigarettes were causing lung cancer, and were causing pain, were causing death? Well, actually, it's plain and simple. 1800s, we found that people were starting to get that cigarettes had stuff in them, but I'd say the really first famous note of this is when the Nazi Germany had tests, and they were able to find out, or at least assume, the correlation between these two things, cigarettes and lung cancer. Hitler hated cigarettes, so you couldn't even, you couldn't smoke around him, and you also couldn't smoke on public transport places in Germany. Weird. A psychopath, some guy that's rotting in hell right now, is the one that's opposing cigarettes. Well, call me a shit. Because, well, in the 60s, that's when I think that I realized the first big one in 1964, but I was watching Trademarks. Of course, the Beatles going on the Ed Sullivan Show was probably the biggest part of 1964. But I'd probably say that, one of these these ads, anti-smoking ads, this is really the birthplace of them. It's not really special, but it's still a little bit of an interesting story. And the thing with tobacco, when you get to the 90s, you have the mascot Joe Camel, which in 1991, this little 2-year-old went to his dad, who was a doctor, and said, "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to drive fast cars, and I want to smoke cigarettes, or something like that." And then, to add the exaggeration, apparently the kid was holding a straw and pretending to smoke it. And then when doing this test, this doctor found that most kids could coordinate or make a connection between a cigarette and and a camel than Mickey Mouse and a Disney Channel. Or I think it might have been the same, but still. Camel said that, oh, this was meant for adults, but really, the idea, it got why. The reason they're making these young, cartoon characters is to reel in the young reel in these young kids who, see all these flashy cartoon characters, and they're like, oh, maybe I want to grow up to smoke these cigarettes that, are from, the cartoon from my childhood. The little character guy, So, it's kind of like it. For me, it's good. It's good, but you know what I mean. It's like, and if you didn't know, in 1998 they passed a law so you can no longer, play. You can no longer put ad cigarette characters. And nowadays, cigarettes are just viewed upon as pure evil, and people hate on smokers. Not the fact they smoke, but hate the people. And if you do that, shame on you. Go screw yourself. That's the best term. Don't hate on somebody because of their own decision. Because you know what? They could hate on you for a decision. That's not my calling card. Or not my calling to make fun of somebody just because they want to smoke a cigarette. It's their decision. They're the one that bought the pack, and they pull one out and they light it with a lighter. It's not me. I'm not the one doing that. I didn't buy this pack for them, dude. You didn't either. Leave them be. I know most Americans wouldn't agree with me on that because like cigarettes are considered the worst thing ever. But let me bring this back. Meth is worse than cigarettes. Crystal meth is worse than cigarettes. Which sure happens to be where I live. Up like down south. Not actually my area, but I mean, a couple areas over, there's methamphetamine in the area, so people make meth. Not in my town, but a couple towns over, in a small mountain town. But yeah, it's for a lot of kids like that. But so it's like now getting to the vaping part. Vaping, I mean, dude. The only thing I'm gonna say about vaping, because this was really about tobacco and cigarettes. Vaping is like, I don't trust it because we don't know the long-term effects of vaping. We don't know the long-term effects of a cigarette, but we don't know anything about vaping really. Besides, it's now, except what happens to people nowadays. And I will tell you, people, I have like, counting in my head, I got 1, 2, 3. 4 of my direct family members smoke cigarettes. Okay? Is that enough to bring you in? 7 kids at my school smoke, or no, not smoke, they vape. I don't. So I'm not going to ruin my life. But don't take this video as I'm attacking you if you're a smoker. And heck, if you want to start smoking when you're like, go ahead. It's not my choice, and it's yours. Have a good day, everyone. This is a rant about tobacco. I know this is different. YouTube's gonna mark this as a kid's video. He's a kid talking about cigarettes. That's made for minors. Well, screw you too, YouTube. I'm so sick of it. You know what you promote? Promote crap content to young kids. And to preteens. Maybe somebody should just call you a bunch of morons. Goodbye, everyone. Take care. Stay healthy.